I'm going to hand over to Ant a little early, but thank you very much, everyone. Have a fantastic day. Please welcome Ant.
Thank you, Max. And the clicker. Yes. Thank you, Max. Thank you, and thank you for the kind invite along today. I have worked with Stuart and Steve and a number of the COMIT team over the, 5 or 6 plus years now, isn't it? In a previous capacity, but now I stand in front of you as an independent futurist after 30 years in the telco industry, looking at how technology is evolving our organisations. So as a futurist, my role is really to look at the future across a number of different aspects. And over the next 45 minutes, I'm going to hopefully bring to light some of the areas which I think are going to change our lives. The test card, for those that remember it, is just to check the audio, which, Max, I didn't hear any, so we'll see how we fare with this presentation. So let's make a start. I'm going to start by proposing that we're in a history lesson of the future. This is a lesson where teachers are going to tell children about a time when a global pandemic and advancing technology completely changed the way we lived and worked. Our regular patterns of travel and day-to-day commutes completely changed. And ultimately, it had a huge impact. But if we think this has made change so far, I'll propose that we haven't seen anything yet. The years ahead are going to bring considerable change. We've got used to this change. We've started to balance our working lives a little bit more. The work-life balance has improved. We've started to focus on ourselves when we can. Get a little bit fitter, a little bit healthier. The role of the family is playing an important part, and we're super organised. In my home office, I can get stuff done. I can really get some work cracked out with screens and advanced technologies. We've taken it slightly too comfortably in certain parts as well. We have to remember to present ourselves when we're on video calls. But it's a nice problem to have, right? But it doesn't work for everybody. This push and rush to get back to the office and to, keep home working. The debate echoed around every boardroom I went into. But actually, it didn't work for many people. Lots of people said, I don't want to be at home. The Morse household in the summer holidays is a battlefield. I get attacked with water pistols, Nerf guns. It just doesn't work. I had a chap who worked for me many years ago during COVID, whose housemate would walk past the back of video calls on purpose in his underpants, just for a bit of fun. But this guy was on a work call with customers. Now we're at this point where we seem to have the best of both worlds. Where possible and industry dependent, we can actually have the ability to be at home to make sure we're productive, or maybe just deal with the life challenges that we all face, but also then have the option to come to incredible places like this. But I'm telling you what you already know, right? We're at that point. The question now is, where do we go from here? And I'm going to share, I'll just pause that a second. Before I give you my view, I'm just going to share a view of somebody who did a similar thing, slightly more famous than me. Arthur C. Clarke in 1964 shared his view of the future. Now, I want you to imagine while listening to this, what you would think if you were sat there. Arthur C. Clarke, 1964. Let's hope we have sound.
But what about the city of the day after tomorrow, say the year 2000? I think it will be completely different. In fact, it may not even exist at all. Oh, I'm not thinking of the atom bomb and the next Stone Age. I'm thinking of the incredible breakthrough which has been made possible by developments in communications, particularly the transistor and, above all, the communications satellite. These things will make possible a world in which we can be in instant contact with each other, wherever we may be, where we can contact our friends anywhere on Earth, even if we don't know their actual physical location. It will be possible in that age, perhaps only 50 years from now, for a man to conduct his business from Tahiti or Bali just as well as he could from London. In fact, if it proves worthwhile, almost any executive skill, any administrative skill, even any physical skill could be made independent of distance. I am perfectly serious when I suggest that one day we may have brain surgeons in Edinburgh operating on patients in New Zealand. When that time comes, the whole world will have shrunk to a point, and the traditional role of the city as a meeting place for man would have ceased to make any sense. In fact, men will no longer commute. They will communicate. They won't have to travel for business anymore. They'll only travel for pleasure. I only hope that when that day comes and when the city is abolished, the whole world isn't turned into one giant suburb.
1964, an interesting view. And if we'd have been sat in there, the reason I share this is we were sat here listening to that, we'd think this guy's a lunatic and we'd be looking to leave very quickly or reaching for a phone that perhaps wasn't invented yet. But the reason I share that is, if we now fast forward, he got a lot of this absolutely right. He pretty much describes our working lives of today. Now, he did get a few little bits wrong, but we'll forgive him. I think also as well, this was 1964. He constantly refers to men. I think women were invented in 1965, according to Arthur C. Clarke. So please forgive the zeitgeist of the time. He mentioned that we'd carry out brain surgery between Edinburgh and New Zealand. That actually took place a couple of years ago over a 5G network in southern China. And I think he said we'd get to Tahiti and Bali. I made Bridlington and Morecambe during lockdown. So I'm not quite sure the glamour of his prediction is true. But the reason, again, is that keep an open mind. What is about to take place in the next months, I used to say 2 to 5 years, but it's happening at such pace. What is happening today and is likely to happen over the next 2 to 5 years is going to completely transform our lives beyond anything we can imagine. So we need to keep that open mind. So where do we go? Well, we can look back. As a futurist, many people will say, well, how do you guess predictions? Well, a lot of things are history repeating itself. So if we look back, will robots take our jobs? It's not the first time. Whether it's the mills of the 1800s or whether it's the factories, production lines of the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s to today, where we are automating factories and building construction sites with 5G technologies. It's just our time, I guess. Or to our mobile phones in our pocket. I started working for Cellnet 29 years ago. The phone on the left was in my drawer. The phone on my right is now in my pocket. The incredible progress that they've made through those technologies has been, in quite a long career, but really a short space over history, an incredible journey. And it is our time, but our time isn't going to afford us the luxuries of getting used to stuff and general adaptation. It's going to go at an incredible pace. And somebody said to me recently, well, surely AI is going to be big. We don't doubt that, but it can't be as big as steam, electricity, the motor car, the telephone. And sure, I don't disagree. However, what I would suggest is that if we look back over history, technology arrived with huge chasms of space between it and time. If you started work the day the telephone was invented, the day you died, it was still the telephone. If we fast forward to the 70s and 80s, things started to accelerate. Moore's law made that things doubled in power and halved in price and halved in size. But if we look to where we are today, good Lord, this plethora of technology, this exponential growth, it's coming from everywhere. Literally, this presentation has been updated 5 times in the last week because of new advancements from OpenAI and Google, and I'll get onto those in a little bit more detail. But the technology is just coming where we cannot physically manage to understand it all. And this curve is only going to get steeper. So what do we do? Well, you could ask futurists like me. I'll give you an opinion. I do lots of research. We don't guess. We do have a formula and a process to assess what's next. Or we could ask ChatGPT. Or maybe we could get the consultants in and they could, sort some money from us and give us a view as well. But I'll actually propose that there isn't one area to get the answer of the future. It's going to be about us all working together. There are a number of different areas. ChatGPT is reading from a database that's 17 times the size of the British Library. So we'd expect Chat to be pretty good, but it doesn't have that common sense that sits in this room, that logic, that experience. So my proposal, as Ken Blanchard said, is none of us as smart as all of us. And it will be about shaping the future, it will be about working together. Oops, we clicked a little quick there. And it's not just going to be about technology. This obsession with what's the next tech actually is only a part of this. It's how we as a society then actually use these technologies and work out what works for us that will shape the future. And ultimately, all this tech is not going to come for free. The economy and the changes to the economy are going to be seismic over the remainder of our lifetime, but particularly for the next 2 generations. Things are going to look very, very different. I'll touch on those shortly. So let's have a look at the tech. Well, gosh, you live and breathe this yourselves in your industry. New technologies offering you different ways to live and work. And we're going to see innovators innovate, entrepreneurs embrace these technologies, there is going to be no shortage of new stuff landing in that exponential funnel of technologies landing and arriving. And what this is going to do, as you see around you, this city and this building, is that we're going to become hyper-connected. There are things, assets everywhere. The Internet of Things is coming alive, and it's layering this invisible digital layer that we can't see yet so around our buildings and our locations and even our homes. But we'll then find technology that allows us to see these digital technologies and to interact in different ways, from glass technology. And while some of these may feel concepts, and somebody challenged me the other day and said, well, Google Glass did this many years ago and it failed. Well, one of the key things as a futurist that we do is we follow the money. So when Google Glass failed, actually did it fail? Because imagine the scene. If I leave here today and I say coffee shop near me on my mobile phone, I'll have page after page after page of paid results. If I tap my glasses and say coffee shop near me, I'm probably going to get one. So I'll challenge, did Google Glass fail, or did somebody go, this is brilliant, coffee shop near me and it appears. What's our business model? Selling advertising, selling search. Crumbs, we've just killed that because we can now only sell one place in our vision of sight. But ultimately, while it may have failed or it may have looked to alter and disrupt an industry back then, it's inevitable that these technologies will evolve and expand. The use cases for them are quite considerable. And if you are in marketing, I propose that this will start the hottest battle in marketing ever. And that's our constant field of vision. Again, there is only one place that you can put information on that screen. And using artificial intelligence, which we'll expand on shortly, the options to interact with that are quite incredible. And these technologies will evolve, they'll progress, and virtual reality has been around since the 1970s, not a new technology. Many would say it's still looking for its use case, its niche, but actually I think it's found it in many areas, whether it's training, health and safety, in health itself. There are some phenomenal use cases for these types of technology.
Older generation, dare I say, some blank faces.
Oh, sorry, there's a little bit of audio on that video, forgive me. But these technologies, while they may not be sensible to use a VR headset all the time, actually for the right meeting, these are incredibly immersive locations and situations. Imagine if you're on a very important meeting and you're looking back at a sea of square faces. There's many that will be looking down and they're in an email or they're on the internet or they're on the mobile phone. If you're in a virtual reality environment, you're there. You cannot be distracted. You are physically there. If you reach out, you knock the cups of tea over, you kick the cat, you are absolutely in that session. And as you saw there, forgive me, fast forwarded through that video, how we appear in these locations will change as well. The opportunity to travel without moving is becoming more and more relevant. As 5G technologies progress and 6G technologies follow, the idea to use things like teleport devices will become very, very real. One thing, again, is we follow the money, but we also look at the economic business case for technologies. And when this type of technology was first introduced, it was very expensive, hundreds of thousands of pounds. So it wasn't for everybody. Now, this exact solution, and forgive me, I don't have a picture of it, has a desktop version. So it's about the size of a small suitcase, and you pop it on a desk. It costs $12,000. So suddenly we've gone from unachievable, unmanageable tech to actually a couple of transatlantic flights would pay for this very, very quickly. So connecting people, traveling without moving is a growing case as well. And it's most important to stress here that the technology has been around for a while, but one thing that makes technology explode is collisions of technology. So imagine an iPhone without mobile data. It'd just be a great smart device, wouldn't it? A great iPod. But the mobile data made it the smart remote control of our lives. This is the same thing. If that person sat in the US and this person sat in London are communicating in real time with zero latency, where they can read each other's emotions through the video image, then it becomes a really useful technology. This is when collisions of technology start to explode. And again, these technologies that may have previously failed, 3D glass, did anybody buy a 3D television? When they came out, no, always one hand at the back, very brave. Always with a couple of hands there, kind of, and everybody said, what a disaster that technology was. But actually, it was only a matter of time before glassless 3D technologies came around. And again, if you think to that travel without moving, the flat image of somebody beaming a smile back to you on a video call tomorrow morning. Imagine if they were using 3D technology that peered out. This was launched by Acer at CES late last year, and the cost and price point means that really this could be on practically every laptop that's made in the very near future. So the 3D video call, the next video call that you have may become slightly more real and slightly more immersive. And if we think to your industry and wider workforce industries with a high number of field forces, these technologies, again, may, for many, feel quite gimmicky. I advise a lot of organizations on the future of technology, and some would say, oh, this just looks ridiculous as a concept. But augmented reality has far greater use cases. And again, if we follow the money, here we may see somebody using technology like AR to ask an expert for information. But I'll put it another way. Mobile phone network operators are exploring this technology where they have a high degree of very highly skilled people that are retiring en masse early. So how do they retain the skill? Well, the option is that they send young guys and girls out with these types of AR headsets on, and they offer the experienced, possibly retiring base, the opportunity to change their job completely and say, instead of sitting in a van in the rain at 8 o'clock in the morning, why don't you sit down with a nice cup of coffee, 2 big screens, maybe you could do it from your holiday home in Fuerteventura. And when this guy goes out and gets stuck, he taps his glass and it dials you. And as the expert, you can guide him remotely, you can share drawings and schematics and guide him through it. And instead of working 9 to 5, we'll maybe just do 3-4 hour shifts. How would that work? So suddenly we've gone from a use case of, oh, it's a novel bit of technology, to actually very practical HR organizational problems. How do we retain talent? How do we attract talent as well? Do you want to be the person working for the organization that equips you with these types of devices?
Instead of looking at the map in 2 dimensions, augmented reality is trying to see it in 3 dimensions for the first time. When you're actually seeing things in reality, you're not having to form an idea of what's going on under the ground in your mind. You're seeing it with your own eyes. That's much more easy to comprehend. It's all color-coded, of course.
I'll park it there. Forgive us, we swapped over the slides from PowerPoint to Google, and it seems to have kept the audio on some that I'd previously silenced. So let me just talk back through those videos that we saw there. So Northumbrian Water were the HoloLens users. They were using this initially to help prevent accidents. So not new, they've been using it for a long time, where people were digging into power cables instead of water cables. The unconscious benefit that they had as a consequence of that was that they were able to asset map a massive number of devices and assets in the field. So suddenly this became not just a tool to help keep people safe, but actually following the money, it became a hugely lucrative asset register as well. The video after that then was around digital twin, and we were talking to a few people beforehand again, and I'm sure you're going to hear a lot more this afternoon from greater experts in those topics than me. But the ability to be able to visualize an environment, whether it's from a health and safety perspective, whether it's from a management perspective, or whether it's from a safety perspective and a financial reward, is critical now. To visualize those from remote workers is important. Having remote experts be able to interact with those types of environments is absolutely phenomenal. And while those 2 videos showed you cases in industrial settings, I then shared the Vision Pro, which is Apple, by their own quote, would be a consumer-led organization. They are looking at products which consumers would use. So when we start to see people like Apple backing those technologies, then suddenly we know that we're on the right track. Will these technologies all survive? Perhaps not. Innovation that doesn't solve a problem is a gadget. And the jury's out on lots of these technologies currently as to where are the use cases. But I believe it's actually in industry where we'll prove many of these, and not in the consumer space. So the next couple of years, as technologies evolve and AI starts to empower some of these things, I think the industries will be looking to what happens in industries such as construction for that guidance. We'll see that consumer model then kind of build out as well. We saw the 3D screen there that gives you a slightly more immersive experience. The big tech are racing to secure your spend, whether it's at a corporate level or whether it's at a personal level, which we'll expand on. And we will see new technologies, new additions come out. Does anybody remember Microsoft saying, here's an update to Teams? Doesn't happen. They just appear. Something else appears on the screen. Suddenly you have an avatar. Suddenly you have a mute all and collaborate, whiteboard. All of these things just seem to appear constantly for us. And nobody's making a big deal of it because they just want you to, through that consumerization, to start using it, to be self-training. And this won't just stop at the kind of the office applications. We'll start to see technology again follow the money. We'll chase for our digital spend. So people like Amazon will continue to explore these technologies and bring out new solutions that allow us to shop in different ways. And as quoted before, innovation doesn't solve problems as a gadget. Not all of it will work. And it's around us, not just rushing out and saying this is the latest and greatest thing, but actually working through it. Now I kind of want to bring another factor into this, which is, if we think to our mobile phones being our first field of notification and watch being our second, glass has been tipped as our third field of notification. But actually, it doesn't have to stop there. Do we really need to see that there's a coffee shop 200 yards and the little arrow pops up? Or could I just pop my earpods in and say coffee shop near me? And audio then could guide me through it. And this could be used for many different environments as well. And if we think to your own day-to-day usage, I only walked from the hotel across the way there, but I had my AirPods in and I got 2 WhatsApp messages. So we're starting to use these technologies anyway, and it will build from there. And if we now bring in AI, we'll hopefully be able to understand where this can help us slightly further. Many people will say, our robot's going to take my job. And that's everything from accountancies to legal profession, where we see that experts as a service is going to be a big thing. And actually, I'll propose that robots, while they are incredibly intelligent and AI is incredibly impressive, there is still this human factor needed. And I'll bring it to life with a brief example of what AI is, but also what it isn't. So at the moment, we are at the stage of weak AI. As impressive as it may be and as incredible as some of the solutions we're seeing arrive, it is narrowly set to perform narrow tasks and do exactly as we ask it to do. The next stage of AI is going to be machine learning, where it's classed as strong, where it becomes as intelligent as a human being. And then it gets to the point where machines become conscious or super AI, and they surpass human intelligence. Now, this is a bit where you kind of think, oh no, what have I come to today? What is this guy going to talk about? But I'm going to draw a line of reality and say that this is where we are today. Yes, we are progressing into that. And you'll have all seen Elon Musk and Jeffrey Hinton and Eric Schmidt talking about machines taking over the world. And I'm sure that these are incredibly clever people. I'm not going to knock them. But right now, we are at this line of reality where machines are incredible, but they're incredible at being artificial. So for the foreseeable future, I do believe that we are going to be in this position of being very, very relevant. These machines will need to be operated. These machines will need to be trained. The models that they work off will need to be evolved and educated. So the role of us is ever present. Now, if we think of that line of reality and beyond, again, the dystopian future views that we're hearing from many talk about this point of singularity. This is when machines do become intelligent. And again, they're incredible experts. I'm not going to knock them. But at the moment, we are some way off. The suggestion is 2045, some saying a little further, some saying a little earlier. So it's perhaps going to happen on the next, there's a few nods, people say it's going to happen. The jury is out, is what I will say. Make your own opinion. I'm not going to vote either way, but when it happens, run. We are, our jobs will be the last of our worry when that day comes. So until then, I think we have a relevance and a point to stay human. Now let's bring in AI and this incredible advancements in machine learning, deep learning, neural networks, and generative AI. The generative AI part is the bit that has completely transformed everything we do. Now, one thing as well that you're not hearing a great deal about, so this may be the first you've heard of it, but there's something called large action models. So everyone's obsessed with large language models, which is the massive database of information that predicts what we might want to know next in ChatGPT and the types. But there is another bit that's subtly, quietly happening around us, but it's going to change the world, is large action models. And how this would work is when I say coffee shop near me to my digital assistant, instead of it saying it's on the left in 300 yards, or what do I say, 50, it's coming up 50 meters on your left, it will actually then interact with me and say, shall I place your usual order? Now, my digital assistant, or large action model, can then interact with a number of different applications. And could progress then to say, I've ordered it, it's going to be ready when you walk past, and I've already paid. Now, this is where you may have heard some people say the mobile phone has got a shelf life. It's going to, I think it was Mark Zuckerberg said, we won't have phones in a few years' time. This is what he meant. This is where his train of thought was going. If you can do all of that just from pressing your earpiece or just saying, hey, Scout, or whatever you call your digital assistant, you haven't touched your phone. But these are things you would normally have touched your phone for. So the phone and the power and processing, I'm sure, will still be needed, but to look at the phone is not actually as important. Likewise, if I get out of here, and I've had a couple of emails, I'm sure, while I'm talking to you guys today, I could pop my earpiece in and say coffee shop near me, and they can start that direction and that train. And they say, oh, and you've had a message from Stuart, or you've had a message from Ian. He's asking if you're available next week, and it can start to then interact. And again, these are not new services, but it's the AI element to it, which is going to transform our lives. I'll give you another example of this. I work very closely with the RNIB, and we were looking at how technology like glass reading a room through artificial intelligence could transform the world. And we said, imagine if a blind person could wear metaglass and be aware of this situation right now, could have an audio description of the room, it could say where the exit is, and it could say where obstacles are in the path. And we said, wouldn't that be absolutely amazing? And then this happened on Tuesday.
Is the king in residence at the moment?
Yes, it looks like the king is in residence right now. The Royal Standard flag is flying above Buckingham Palace, which is the signal that the monarch is present. How exciting to be there while the king is home.
Try and tell me exactly what they're doing right now, please.
Right now the ducks are gently gliding across the water. They're moving in a fairly relaxed manner, not in a hurry. Occasionally, one of them will dip its head under the water, probably looking for food, and then pop back up.
I even know when a taxi is coming with its orange light on. I think I'll hail it to get home.
Yes, I spotted one just now. It's heading away on the left side of the road. Get ready to wave it down. Great job hailing that taxi. It looks like you're all set to go. That's a good dog right there, leading the way into the taxi. Safe travels.
So progress is happening at pace. While we take a concept that we thought was a fantastic idea and it moves forward at such pace, we're now challenging as a group to say, well, actually, how do we take it a stage further and use haptic wristbands, just like your Apple Watch or Garmin Watch as an example, to actually, when you are getting close to those obstacles or items, that it starts to give you some feedback, a bit like the reverse sensor on your car. So I think that the possibility of technology for good is incredible. But also as well, the bit that I've noted in that video, while it's technology for good and accessibility, is actually the way that it communicates with the user. If you notice, there was kind of joke and humor and emotion that was brought in. These are things that machines were never able to do, right? They're starting to mimic that environment. I'll give you another example. I use PyTalk. I don't know if anybody's used PyTalk. Show of hands, anybody use PyTalk? Yep, few. For everybody else, have a look at it. PyTalk, put it onto your phone, and it's a Gen AI model that you can talk to. It's designed for speech. There is a little bit of a delay. OpenAI's is much shorter, but it's quite incredible. And I was in the car the other day taking my son somewhere, and I said, I'm really sorry, I need to do some research on a topic pretty urgently. I just need to have a chat with my AI assistant, to which I got a raised eyebrow from him from the passenger seat. And then after immersing myself in this conversation, which is absolutely incredible, with humor and emotion, you know, sentiment browning, you lull yourself into a false sense of security. So the end of the interaction went like this: that's brilliant, Scout, thanks ever so much, that's amazing, I've got what I need, have a nice weekend. To which my son looked in horror and went, Dad, it's a machine. But it's, again, try it for yourself. The immersive fooling us, the artificial side of it, is becoming so good that actually we are treating it in a different way and talking to it almost as though it's a human being. So again, I go back to this point of cobotics being the future of us, and the area where we need to work. I'm going to bring another example in just to summarize this. So I mentioned I'll leave here and I might say, you know, have I had any emails? And they may say, yeah, there's one from Stuart. He says, can you make a meeting in London next week? You're going to need a train. So I've checked your diary, you're free. I've also booked the train for you. It's a little distance from the station, so I'm going to book you an Uber. And also it's a late meeting, so you're going to need an Airbnb. So I'll take care of that for you as well. And they can't meet for dinner on this occasion, so I've ordered you a Just Eat, your usual, and we'll get that sorted. And I've downloaded a film that I think you'll enjoy for you to kick back and watch. Now, again, you think, well, this is actually just quite novel stuff, but this is my life, right? This is what I do every day. And this takes a huge amount of time. Organising diaries, organising trains, travel, accommodation, and it's not an easy thing. It takes hours and hours for me to do. My digital assistant can do this in seconds for me. Follow the money, how much would I pay for that? So these are services which have an immediate return and a real use case. Now, we said innovation that doesn't solve a problem is a gadget, and some things won't always win. This is the Humane Pin. It was supposed to revolutionize phone usage. There's a few smiles from people who might have seen it or even ordered one. It was $700. We were all eager to see it and said, this is going to be the end of the mobile phone. It's going to change the world. It's rubbish. The reviews are horrendous. Everybody said it is a practically unusable device. So thank God I didn't order one. But we then said, but don't panic, more devices are on the way. And then that was Humane Pin. This is a device called the Rabbit R1. And this was, again, supposed to be this kind of AI interaction solution that would transform our lives and use AI in another way. Now, this one slightly disappoints me because I think that the opportunity here for this device is incredible, but everyone's saying it's not ready. It doesn't have enough of those interactions. It can only interact with one cab firm, and they're not in the UK. It can only interact with a limited number of restaurants. But I think we're losing our ability to innovate. And I think it's important that we get that back and actually treat these as proof of concepts. It's $120. Mine arrives in a few weeks' time, and I'm just, I'm going to forgive the gaps in its ability, but actually look at the useful cases of what it can do. The camera on the front, you can train to any environment. You could point it to your screen while you're doing your banking. It will then learn how you interact with your bank, dual-factor authentication, security, and it will do it for you next time you try it, again, via speech. So I think we need to just change our view of innovation. And my view as a futurist is usually 2 to 5 years into the future. And I never thought for a second I would stand in front of an audience and talk about mind control, mobile phones. And again, if we talk to that pace of progress, then Elon Musk and Neuralink develop as the ability to control our phones with our mind. Again, even as a futurist, the technology I thought was many, many years into the future is now absolutely here. Will we all be using it? Perhaps not anytime soon, but in the right use cases in health and accessibility, it holds incredible promise. And once it's established in those environments, it won't be too far before we get it ourselves. Lots of the AI focus is around automation of the mind, but actually let's not forget robotics and the automation of labor through AI as well. And many of you as organizations will have explored solutions such as exoskeletons to help and assist. And a few years ago, these things we looked at with many construction organizations, and the return on the investment was just not there. We couldn't see the return. But now these things have gone from hundreds of thousands of pounds into tens of thousands of pounds, and more examples of them come to fore. Now, again, we are innovators. We're leading innovation in these industries. It won't all work. The benefit of this aiding somebody from a power perspective and a muscle perspective is great, but actually we self-regulate what we can pick up with common sense and genetics. This doesn't. So we need to then work out what happens if somebody picks up a huge RSJ and they fall. How do we then manage those things as well? So by no means here it is, it's fixed, let's embrace it. These things have got time to progress as well. And this progress, again, a few years ago, would we be here talking about humanoid robots?
The AI-powered humanoid robot space is starting to get almost as crowded as the cereal aisle at your local supermarket. Last month alone, we were treated to 2 impressive offerings from OpenAI. 1, a laundry folding bot from Norwegian collaborators 1X that showed off impressive soft-touch skills, anything we've seen so far. This humanoid can execute movements with a top speed of 10 meters per second and handle a payload of 10 kilograms per arm. That an adult male falls well short of both of these and other Astribot metrics shouldn't be cause for alarm at all. From Astribot's website that the company was founded in 2022 in Shenzhen, that the robot took about a year to develop, and that it is expected to be commercially available later this year. The site also indicates that the parent company, Stardust Intelligence, it was founded by Lai Jia, who also worked with Tencent Robotics Laboratory, Baidu, and Hong Kong Polytechnic University. The company also said
we'll bring that to a and I'll just pause back on this. Forgive the video errors here. Just while I explain the humanoid robot, then we'll go into the vision that you saw there of Will Smith. So in terms of humanoid robots, again, what does this mean for us? Well, again, we were looking at the cost of these things were hundreds of thousands of pounds, if not millions, when we started to see them appear. Now, the suggestion from 3 organisations, including the company you saw there, that these things will be under $20,000. So having one of these for the cost of a family car is the suggestion. And again, if we follow the money, what would this device do for us in return? Means that these things are highly likely to appear in our homes. So robot vacuum cleaner, anybody? Anybody got the robot vacuum cleaner? Few raised hands, yeah. Weren't they brilliant? You know, maybe you did have to do a little bit after them, but imagine this now being that next reiteration, that next generation of robotics. And if we then think to them being instilled in organizations such as office environments and in construction environments as well, this is now becoming that Moore's law, that point of accelerating return. The video, let me just go back again. The video that I then want to just show is, while this progress is incredible, and going back to that, what's real with AI and what's, you know, kind of taking us to that next step. The bit that we can't do to the Arthur C. Clarke video is exclude anything. The progress is going to be to such a point where it will disrupt industries we never dreamt it would. I was speaking to somebody around the first AI video images, which is the Will Smith video I'll show you in a second, forgive the noise. And somebody said that will never, as a technology, will never disrupt the film industry. There's just no way it will work. So let's just have a look at that. And then after that, I'll show an update less than a year in. Will Smith eating spaghetti was the brief for the ad.
That's hot. Uncle Phil, come try this.
So that was less than a year ago when this was launched, and everybody in the film just said, forget it, and advertising, it won't cause us a problem. Sora, through OpenAI, then launched their version, and there's no sound on this one, so I can talk over it. So this one was generated with one single line of text, and it said 3 Labrador puppies playing in the snow. The thing that the film industry said is you will never be able to recreate fingers and eyes. That was the thing that was going to defeat the models and real-time situations such as moving water to a realistic position. And here you see a film completely mocked up. Eyes look pretty realistic, right? It's moved to such a point that in less than a year, claims that this is never going to get to the point of fooling us, is now transforming and disrupting entire industries. Google launched their version of this on Tuesday last week as well. So Tuesday last week was a busy day, lots and lots of new developments. And we're getting to that point now of awe of the next stage of development. So where do we go from here? Keep a check on time. The next thing as we look at all those incredible technologies, to the earlier point, is it's how we actually adapt to those and adopt those technologies, which will decide where we go from here. And we are now at this point where we know there is a different way. And we then expect not only our employers to facilitate and cater for us in a different way, but we expect our favoured brands to do the same. We want better experiences. They're as important as the product. We want organisations to transform how they interact with us. Nobody wants to sit on a call queue ever again. And people are happy to share a level of data in return for that. We go to McDonald's with the children, and when we get to the drive-through, our boys sigh at how long it takes. And I say, you've got to be joking. You order at one window, you pay at the next, you collect at the next one. How is that slow? They said, oh, Dad, they should just know we're here. And we shouldn't have to do the first window. They should know what we want. So the eyes of a child looking at this in a different way of what we think is acceptable and actually pretty slick service, the next generation are looking at with slight concern. And we have that generational impact at the moment where we have 4 generations in the workforce today and another one closely on its way that are living in different worlds. They have far louder voices and confident voices as well. And I'll challenge that we should actually embrace this voice. You know, when we were starting my career, if I was told to do something, I did it. The last thing I would do is question it. But actually, maybe we should do. Maybe the views and the eyes of a child are giving us that different lens. And if we think to the younger generation on its way, this generation know no different. They have no comprehension of how we lived and worked. And they've grown up in these digital worlds, these metaverse, these online environments. So their expectations are incredibly different to ours, with complete common sense and appreciation for their modern world. And I'll bring an example to this, that in fact, Stuart, I was sharing this slide at a Red Bull event many years ago, if you remember. And it was in the test of the pack that I looked at this slide, which I used earlier to show that my work patterns have changed. And I thought, I love this slide, because when I put it in, I put in a miserable train station, and it brought up King's Cross. And I thought, well, that's apt, because I used to do this journey 4 times a week. And I'm a little bit kind of organised in how I travel, and I always stand in the same place. And I love this picture, because I thought, well, it's not only my station, it's my train. And I always stand around about here. And then I realised that is me. So I got home that evening and I said to my son, I said, Evan, I said, look at this. I said, you know, this picture is miserable train station. I said, I'm in it. And he went, what were you doing? I said, well, I used to do that 4 times a week. To which I think, well, he was 14 at the time, he went, why? So, oof. And then he hit that killer quote afterwards and he said, was your broadband broken? And I said, no, that's what we did. And he went, nuts, and left. Which I thought, well, you know, the eyes of a child really do bring a different lens onto this. Now what I want to share is just a slight humorous look at where we are in that societal debate as to what the future of work might look like. So if you've not seen this, Cranium Infinitum, wonderful humour, they have a great podcast, but here is their view of what does the future of work actually look like.
So one of the biggest trends that you have predicted for the coming year is the end of work from home. What replaces that? What does that look like?
Now that work from home is actually trending out, we're actually looking forward to our next big trend, which is actually work from work.
WFW?
Yes.
Isn't that just going into the office? Isn't that just going to work?
No, that's GTW. This is WFW.
But how is GTW appreciably different from WFW? You're going into the office either way.
So you used to go to work and now you're working from work.
I think that going to work and working from work are the same thing. And I don't think that the American populace is going to accept that. They need other options, and they've expressed that.
For people that find that this doesn't help optimize their work or their business, we've actually introduced work from home from work.
WFHFW.
That's correct.
And what does that look like?
So you'll be working from work from your computer, which will actually be connected to your home computer, that then connects to your work computer, so you can do work from home from work.
Your work computer connects to your home computer, which then connects back to the work computer?
Through a secure server.
Okay, secure server or not, it seems like a needless extra step. There's no reason for you to be doing that. People are still having to come into the office. And I think that they've expressed that they do not want to come into the office if the option to work from home is still there.
So for people who that doesn't work for them or their businesses, we're actually introducing a new cutting edge concept, which all the Fortune 500 companies are doing, which is work from home from work, but it's home.
WFHFWBIH?
Yes.
And what is that? What does that look like?
So you'll be going into your office or cubicle, shared workspace, what have you, and it will be designed exactly like your home. Your couch, your comforter, your blinds, your air plants, your Chemex, everything will be in your space at work.
People still have to come into work for that.
Yes, but they will be at home.
But people don't want to come into work. They've expressed that if they don't want to come into work, building a perfect replica of their living room or their office doesn't help with that problem.
Well, if people don't like that, then they can WFN.
What is that?
Work from nowhere.
Oh.
So the debate continues as to what the future of work may look like, but the moment it is in the rounds of humour and the internet, I think we know we're doomed for more steps. So the final part I want to cover is the economic impacts of technology change. And again, this is one of the areas as a futurist and researcher that is going to be very leading as to where we go from here. If we look at our bank accounts, the world has changed, not just from where we work, but actually we are now having a number of digital direct debits leaving our account that perhaps weren't there a few years ago. And it's important that we track these very, very carefully. There isn't an endless pot of money. But as big tech chase our digital spend and the battle hots up for them to do that, they will make it increasingly easier for us to buy this stuff. But we have to be careful that we don't let it all become life as a service. There has to be a limit as to what we can actually afford. So going back to that, innovation that doesn't solve a problem is a gadget. Choose carefully what you take on and what you don't in your life. We can't have it all. There just isn't an occupation, maybe a Formula One driver or something like that, that could afford to do so. So the final piece to close out is, well, it's great to hear all of that, and hopefully there's been some bits that of interest and information for you there, but how do we stay relevant? What do we do as we move forward? Well, to those 3 points, technology is going to be the vehicle for change. It's just simply our stage on the digital and now industrial and now digital revolution. And innovation is always going to be the fuel, those innovators, those entrepreneurs, those startups that are going to bring those new services which will impress and entertain us and make life easier for us. But ultimately, it's society. It's up to us as to what we actually take forward. There is no sat-nav. It is going to be completely up to us, and we're going to have to learn in new ways. And the best statement that I've closed out my presentations for 15 plus years is actually this isn't about understanding every aspect of AI or becoming a data expert or becoming incredibly in any of these particular fields. It's just about having the ability to adapt. So it's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most adaptive to change. And that's what we have to do. We're doing it already, but the next couple of years, we're going to have to really take it to that next level. Now, I just want to share a final video to say, well, what happens if we don't do that? What happens if we don't evolve? And here is a judicial hearing in the States where somebody wasn't quite on top of the tech.
Mr. Ponton, I believe you have a filter turned on in the video settings.
So at this point, this is a very serious meeting, judicial hearing in the States where 3 justice members, but Rod Ponton appears to have joined as a cat.
You might want to take
we're trying to, can you hear me, Judge?
I can hear you. I think it's a filter.
It is, and I don't know how to remove it. I've got my assistant here. She's trying to, but I'm prepared to go forward with it. I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
Well, I mean, they can be absolutely thrilled that they've cleared that point up. Jerry wasn't in the room until that statement was made, but I think it might just go on to.
I can see that. I think if you click the up arrow next to this.
And they go through to talk him through it. And I hate to point fun at somebody not here to defend themselves. Rod Ponton actually became an internet celebrity on the back.
I did not know that Zoom could turn me into a cat, and I did not know that a cat Zoom could turn me into an internet celebrity, but it all happened in just a matter of hours.
And if we think about staying relevant, Rod Ponton probably had the most important and lucrative advertising opportunity through the YouTube videos which followed. So I'll move from scholars of industry and society's quotes to one of Tom Fletcher of McFly. It's all about you. What we do next as individuals, we'll see how we land on our next stage of the journey. And if we are that class of 2024, and this is the history lesson that teachers will tell children, I feel it only appropriate that I set you some homework. So the homework is find 3 30-minute slots in your diary over the month ahead. In the first 30 minutes, find a topic. Maybe it's something I've spoken about or something that's happening to you or your industry or your life that you don't quite understand. Google the heck out of it. Maybe put it into ChatGPT. Download PyTalk. Ask it the question. Learn everything you can in that 30 minutes so that you're comfortable with the topic. Don't need to be a data scientist. Don't need to be a rocket scientist. Just understand it. In the second 30 minutes, work out how it makes money. If you can't follow the money, stop, go back to point 1, pick a different technology. It will be an innovation that's a gadget and we won't pay for it. And in the final 30 minutes, work out how it might change your life, your job, your career, your family, your economic situation, and then make an assessment from there. The future will be incredibly fast. It's going to be incredibly exciting. It's going to be also equally challenging. So I'll close out by saying, stay interested, stay curious, but most of all, please stay relevant. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, many thanks, and please do, that's your link to your LinkedIn, isn't it? So another QR code for you. So thank you very much. I've just got to close the presentation, haha, refresh the browser, and if technology has all worked beautifully, it has. Haha, here we go. So thank you very much for voting in your polls. I hadn't quite got it up on the boards, but I will get them there. So if you're interested in AI, stay in this room. If you're interested in geospatial, you're in the big room, the small room across the way. You'll see it on the panel. It just says geo on the wall. And if you're interested in advanced work packaging, in the far corner. So COMIT volunteers, you're going to people wrangle. So pick a room each and I'll let you guys self-sort. Yeah, once again, thank you very much to Ant. Have a fantastic day. That's brilliant. Oh, yeah, great fun. I love the cat. I'm sorry, Judge, I don't. It's brilliant. We all get hung up on technology sometimes. So thank you very much and have a fantastic day. Please head to the tracks you're interested in.